You're listening to the Fit Mind, Fit Body podcast, where we explore the connection between a fit body and positive mental health. And our big mission? It's to help 10,000 runners to develop fitter minds in the next 2 years. I'm your host, Michelle Frost. Let's get moving. Welcome to this episode of the Fit Mind, Fit Body podcast. In this episode, we talk with David Williams about his running journey, as well as about his new book called An Unstoppable Runner. This would be a great gift for the runner in your life or for you. For the details on how to pick this book up, check out the podcast notes. Enjoy. Today on Fit Mind, Fit Body, we have David Williams, who is a runner, but also an author. So I'm really excited to talk to you today, David. So welcome along.
Thank you. I've been looking forward to this, Michelle. So thank you.
It's going to be so much fun. I feel like we've met, as I said before we started recording, and it might just be because we have lots of mutual friends. And although you don't live on the mainland of Tasmania, where do you live? Maybe we could start with that because it's a bit...
On the remote windswept island of Flinders Island.
How long have you lived there for?
My wife and I came here 20 odd years ago for a holiday and never left.
So you're not really a local yet, then?
No, not yet. No, I'm still one of those foreigners. Yeah.
You'd be another 20 years, then maybe you could call yourself a local.
Yeah, I'm lucky.
Coming from the other small island, the other small, largely inhabited island of Tasmania, I understand that completely. Although I've lived most of my life now on the big island of Tasmania. Yeah. So obviously, you've just told us you've only been there 20 years only, and I can tell by your accent you probably weren't born in Australia. So tell us a little bit about your background. Where did you come from? Where did you grow up, David?
I was a POM, or I am. Yeah, I was a POM, in my middle 20s, I got offered a job by the company I work for, Price Waterhouse in Hong Kong.
Oh, wow.
So I went to Hong Kong for 4 years. And once I'd escaped the English climate, I thought, well, I don't really want to go back to that. And I was lucky enough to be offered a job in Sydney. So I jumped at that and lived in Sydney for 20 odd years. Yeah. Yeah, so but it just got too big, too the overused word stressful, but yeah, it became too stressful living there and unpleasant in many regards. Became a younger person's place, which it really is now. So we were delighted to escape down to Flinders Island.
Oh, so you went straight. You didn't even do Tasmania and then Flinders Island,
No, we didn't know Tasmania existed. No, I'm only joking.
I love that. That's a great answer.
Well, over here, like you did on King, we call Tasmania the mainland, and the rest of Australia we call Australia.
Yeah, over there, that other place, the big island to the north.
Yes.
So back in England,
yes.
What was sport like for you at school? If we go all the way back.
Well, I'm a puny little fellow, and the school I went to was in the winter rugby, so I was totally unsuited to rugby. I got smashed to pieces every time I set foot on the pitch. So I played soccer, and I loved playing soccer in the winter, and in the summer cricket, and that was my abiding love. For many years, cricket. I spent winter in the nets practicing and getting coached. And
wow.
Yeah.
So did you do any running for fitness, like to support the soccer and the cricket?
A little bit. I did a cross country run. I qualified for the state inter-school state championships, and it was shocking. I came in the middle of the field and didn't enjoy it. Threw the shoes away and didn't run again for many years.
Oh wow, that's interesting. Because you often think at school, well, there's a lot of runners, a lot of kids who are running and don't want to, but they're kind of
Yeah.
made to, and then sometimes that then leaves a nasty taste in their mouth.
Yes. Oh
for the
well,
future.
we did have because I wasn't a rugby player. We did. I was in the cross country squad, and every once a week, instead of playing rugby, we'd go for a run. But yeah, I didn't particularly enjoy it, and yeah, I probably didn't need the mental space for it either. So yeah.
So when you what was the career that took you out to Hong Kong?
The accounting
Accounting?
business. Yes, I was in part of the accounting world.
Did you?
But I went to Hong Kong. I lived a bit of a what's the word? Extreme life. Hong Kong. You work very hard and you play hard. I was a smoker. I was.
Oh wow!
I discovered a lot of heavy beer drinkers, and I
Yep.
joined in with them and at the cricket club,
Yep.
and had a really good time. But after 2 or 3 years, I realised I didn't particularly like myself and didn't like what I was becoming.
Huh.
And somebody introduced me to running.
And so that happened in Hong Kong.
Yeah.
Oh wow!
And there's some lovely places to run in Hong Kong. There's lovely bush trails and things up there, which is surprising, but yeah, it's a lovely place to run.
It was like the expat lifestyle
Yeah.
that you had there, and then which I guess can be racy. Maybe that's when you're young. That was what you were talking about.
That's a kind way of putting it. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I guess, or at least my picture of it. My father, who's also British, worked in Hong Kong for a little while, but as an anyway, and not straight out of England.
Okay.
And my husband's father was actually born there, and he also British descent. So I haven't been there, but I've heard a lot about it. I guess that's what I'm saying. And the lifestyle there. It's certainly previous to recent occurrences, anyway.
Exactly. Yeah.
So was it a local, another expat that got you into running?
Yes. It was a solicitor that I used to do business with occasionally, and he had actually run a marathon, and he was like a hero in my eyes. I thought, well, this is a super being, and I started talking to him about it, and eventually he introduced me to that book, Jim Fixx's book. Did you ever come across?
I don't know if I've heard that
Jim
one.
Fixx's book. I've got it here somewhere. It's called there it is, The Complete Book of Running.
Well, that sounds.
He published it in the 60s or the 70s in the Boom. There it is. There.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah. So it was the Bible of many runners in the 70s, and it was really motivational. It got nice drawings in it that sort of got us motivated. And yeah, I started running, and I thought the idea was to run as fast as you could for as long as you could. And I soon broke down doing that, and
how old were you at the time?
That book, yeah, I had to long, slow distance. So that was.
How old were you at the time, David, when you started running?
32. So okay. I've been running through. I was counting up just now through 5 decades. I've been running. So
that's amazing.
Well, it's a bit scary. I don't know about that.
It is. It's amazing. That's awesome. So about 32, you start running. You ran flat out because maybe sometimes blokes have a lot of testosterone. Sometimes.
Yeah, maybe.
Don't want to do everything as fast as they can.
I soon learned. I got colds and flus and injuries, and I learned that through reading the Jim Fixx book that I had to sort of go for the long, slow distance with a little bit of speed work. So that went well. And by the time I came to Australia, I was a sort of dedicated runner. And I was amazed to walk out into the streets in Sydney lunchtime. My first lunch break, I walked out, and there were all these people coming out of basements wearing running gear and all heading down to the botanical gardens. And I thought, wow, I thought I've come to an amazing place. So I quickly joined in the lunchtime run.
Yeah.
And that was just a new era for me.
That sounds amazing. It does strike me though, because often when people start running and then they get sick, or because they run too fast, as you said, and they do too much too quickly. and they get sick, but for whatever reason you persisted past that. But that stops a lot of people. What do you think it was in you that made you say, actually I can, and you looked for answers, I guess, rather than just saying this running thing is not for me because I'm getting sick and it's not working. You actually looked for answers as to why that's happening and how you could change it.
Yeah, I think I actually found like a mental benefit to it. I'm quite a sort of an extreme introvert, and my job actually involved a lot of talking to people and making presentations, and I found all that exceedingly stressful.
Yeah.
So I found that if I went for a run, I could empty my mind. I could actually get rid of all that unpleasantness. And I needed to do that to get money to keep the family and to make a living. But I found that running gave me that some mind clearing time.
Wow, and you identified that back then, so that's amazing. Like I love that. Yes. That's awesome. And yes, I guess when we're getting unwell, you still realize that positive stuff that was happening with the running, that was happening mentally, even though physically your body was a bit grumpy with you. The mental stuff was important enough to you that you persisted.
And initially, it was also getting rid of the smoking, clearing my lungs and making myself feel better and stronger. And it was evident that it was working.
How long had you smoked for, just out of interest?
Probably about 10 years.
Okay. So long enough for you to have to do a little bit of work to cough it up again.
That's right. Yeah.
Someone said to me on a podcast just recently that because we have this question about when did you call yourself a runner, and they were saying, they were referring back to when do you call yourself a non-smoker when you quit smoking, and the answer to that was the day that you don't have a smoke, that first day you don't have a smoke. So I should ask you, when do you think you called yourself a runner? If you even do now. Some people don't.
After I'd arrived in Australia, there was near where I was renting my first house when I came to Sydney. There was a 5K run. And nice. I thought, I'll do that. And I finished, and it was hard work, but just standing there and listening to all these other people talking about their run and their running life, I suddenly realized that I was one of them. And I thought, oh, wow.
Awesome. So cool.
I am a runner. Wow.
I am a runner. Actually, and somebody recently even said that to me as well. It wasn't until they did a race that they felt like they were a runner. Even though they'd been running for quite a while prior to that. Yeah. So that's kind of like community has now accepted you because you've entered a race and finished a race. So now you're part of that community. Which is
maybe it was because hopefully they saw me as a runner, and that helped me sort of see myself as a,
which is an interesting identity question, that we sometimes rely on some parts of our identity to be reflected back to us from the outside rather than what's going on inside us.
But see, ever since then I've identified myself as a runner. I've never, it's an important part of my life, and it helps define who I am. And so if somebody says, who are you? I'm a runner.
I'm a runner. Not only that, I've written a book about running, which we can talk about in a minute. So that's awesome.
Well,
Did you do any races before you got to Australia? Well, like when you were in Hong Kong?
No. That was your first. In Hong Kong, I joined the Hash House Harriers,
and that was. Of course, you did.
That was a good intro to running, but we never raced, as you know. Hash.
They're notorious, aren't they?
Yes.
That's amazing. Okay, so you're in Sydney and you've got this running lifestyle now. Did you find it continued to support your reasonably stressful work as an accountant?
I wasn't an accountant.
You didn't?
No, I just worked within the accounting organisation. But one of my colleagues was a runner as well. And so together we would go off at lunch times. We would join in races, and we joined the Sydney Striders, which is a huge running group in Sydney, and in its early days, and we were sort of involved in its in sort of helping them run the group for a number of years. And it was a lovely beginning. We ran in some beautiful spots.
Did you feel like a lot of your friends or your community became, or that was a big chunk of who you were considered to be your community, like the running community, especially when you get into a group like, here it's like the buddies or, those kind of groups. Whereas over there, I think, like the Sydney, there's the Striders and there's a couple in Brisbane as well. I'm sure there's some in Melbourne, but they become sort of a part of your network, really, don't they?
Which the family, and the ultra running groups today are our family, and that's a wonderful thing about running. I found I actually had two groups of friends, non-runners who couldn't understand running, and the running friends who just wanted to talk about running all the time and would bore the pants off the non-runners.
I can reflect. I understand that completely. So we know that I know that you obviously went on and did more than 5K events. How did that happen? How did you jump up into these ultra distances? For those who are listening who are not sure the distance of that's anything more than 42.195. So anything more than a marathon is considered an ultra distance. So obviously you've done a few marathons and plenty of ultras now.
Gradually, you wanted to see what you were. I wanted to see what I was capable of. And so the 5K became 10, and then a half marathon. And I worked to get harder, getting faster and faster in the half. And then a marathon came across my horizon, or within my sights. So I ran that, and then I ran more and more marathons and became very keen to get faster, as we all do. We want to see what speed we can do, and I got down to 3:08.
Wow. How old were you then, Dave?
And I wanted to break 3. So again, I started to do a lot of hill work, speed, longer distances. Again, I got injured and struggled with flus, and so I got talking to a couple of my Sydney Strider mates, and we decided, look, we'll just run them in 3:30, and we'll just do every marathon that's going. So we'd do almost every weekend. We'd go off for a marathon. And, just run 3:30 and throw sponges and jump in puddles and have a good time. And of course, back in those days, there was no tailwind, there was no gels, there was no Gatorade was just coming into being. And so we just had water and lollies. That was, and I'd have a Mars bar at the halfway mark, and you think, wow, that's just
yum.
Just disastrous, really, when you think about it.
So how old were you when you started this marathon journey?
30, mid-30s somewhere. Mid-30s somewhere.
So pretty good times. Even 3:30s. I mean, that a lot of people, when they start marathoning, they're like, I just want to get under 4 hours. So
that's what I was too. I was my first one. I wanted to break 4, and I didn't. So that was that doesn't matter. It's I didn't really. It wasn't that important. It was the running that was important, not the speed. Not the speed. Not to say, look at me, I've done this, that, or the other. It was just the feeling in me that I can run as far as I want to, whenever I want to.
So what's the longest ultra that you've done?
It was 100 miles, but it was round a track. That was I didn't get lost. That was the main thing.
Was that a distance one or a timed one?
timed one.
Yeah.
Yeah, 24 hours. Yeah.
I've been a person ticking it off.
Have you?
Experienced lots of it.
That was amazing that people had to do that in a few years ago, because that would be the most dreadful job.
I did 6 hours worth of it, but I did also join a team and do 2 hours of running. There wasn't many teams, so we won that. And then I sat down and did some ticking off of laps. Yeah. So, but I was just, and there was a 12 going on as well. It's like, wow, yes. That's a hard.
Yeah. Where was that? In Tassie?
Yes. Did you come down and do any here at the St Leonard's track?
No.
Dave put on. So it was a couple of years in a row.
Now,
it was a couple of years. It was probably 10 years ago or so, I think.
Okay. No,
but we're trying to work out, everyone who's listening, where we might have connected. That could have been place, but it wasn't. So about 100. So that was the longest going around and around a track.
Yeah, that was an experiment. That was just an experiment to see what it was like. Yeah. I tried, like you. I tried a 12-hour, and I think the first track event I did was a 50-mile, and good old Cliffy Young was in that.
You're shuffling.
Shuffling along, and a very young Pat Farmer. I think he was 16 or 17.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So that was a long time ago. But
how do you like best the track, the road, or trail?
Oh, only the trails.
Only trail.
Yeah. Trails is the way to go. I think once I'd run all these marathons, I got I was over it. I was just over roads, and I was delighted to move onto trails. I've travelled to quite a few places to run on trails, and I love it.
What would be your favourite?
I've got two, both in the Red Centre. There's Larapinta, which is still going.
It is.
That is a beautifully organised event over 4 days. And it's magnificent because you actually, after each day, you go back to a hotel and have a nice meal.
Have a rest.
Yeah, so that's a real bonus. But the other one was the big red run in the Simpson Desert. And we were in tents then and eating freeze-dried food, and that was a tough gig, and blisters were horrendous in that race.
So what's going through your mind? Because when we often talk about the things going on in our mind in this podcast, but it's a whole other level when you're out there running for more than an hour or 2 hours, and running for 3 days or 4 days or something. What sort of things are going through your mind when you're out there?
Well, most of the time you're really just, I'm checking my body. I'm checking how it's feeling, whether I should throw in a walk yet, whether I should have something to eat or something to drink. I think all runners will say the same. Their mind just wanders onto so many different things. And that's one of the beauties of long distance running, I think. It's just you and your mind. Especially now I've got older, I'm at the back of the pack, way at the back of the pack. I don't see a soul for many hours in these races. So I really enjoy that.
So get away from me. I just want to be back here. So it seems like in those moments, especially when you're checking your body, doing like a body scan, perhaps in my world, we kind of call it that. Yes. It's kind of like you're being really present in that moment.
Correct.
I think that is something that running can give all of us.
That's a good way of putting it. Yes. Yeah. Like it's a bit like meditation in a way.
Exactly. The studies have actually shown now that runners in particular, they've tested runners and people who meditate, both have the same things happening in their brain.
Is that right? Okay.
Yeah, like the same neural pathways are being built, the same chemicals are being triggered, and we hit the same kind of whatever, so you get the same feelings out of meditating than you do out of running. I would say there are some runs where I feel more relaxed than others, and I think sometimes it's when I'm being more present. So in those times when I'm more present to my environment, more in my run than, ruminating over things. They seem to be the ones where I get the more of those good.
Yeah, that's interesting, because I find being out on the trails, you're more in the moment than you are on the road, because there's so many things to see, and to smell and hear. And to stop. Sometimes I just have to stop and stare and enjoy what I'm actually seeing out on the trail. So it's and to do that on a road, you wouldn't last long with the traffic.
No, that's so true.
Mind you, on Flinders, we don't have that amount of traffic.
Traffic's not such a big deal.
No traffic lights here, no roundabouts. It's wonderful.
You probably have to be a little bit aware too, that you're not going to run off the edge of a cliff or something. You're aware of what's going around.
Yes. Yeah.
Do you have some favourite runs on Flinders?
Yes. Well, I live 2 minutes from a trailhead, so and it's at a place called Badger Corner, and it goes round the back of Strzelecki Mountain. So I go round there, and there are trails that go up into the hills, and I enjoy a variety of runs. Yeah,
got lots of choices
through creeks and So it's a fun place to run here.
So we were talking before about your running community that you found in Sydney.
Yes.
Is there a running community that you are almost, because for those of you who don't know, what would be the population of Flinders Island?
1,000 people.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
so what's the running community?
It's 76 kilometres long by about 40 wide. Flinders Island. Same size as Singapore, exactly. We just have a few less people.
Just a few.
But yeah, there's a very small running community here. And because they all have different jobs and different times of work, they tend to run on their own, except for a Wednesday afternoon run where they meet and have a barbecue afterwards. So yeah.
So that's when, if we want to be there to come and go for a run with some locals, it's a Wednesday afternoon in Flinders Island.
Yes, it is. Yes.
I was lucky enough earlier this year to have my first visit to Flinders Island, but I got there via a sailing, by a boat, a yacht, and we went up Strzelecki. It was wonderful. I loved it.
Good. So you came into Lady Baron, did you?
We did, and then we went round to, is it Trouser Point?
Yeah. Well, I live about 5 kilometres from Lady Baron.
Oh, so, there you go. Yeah. It's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Good. Quite different from King Island, so which is also beautiful, but in a different way.
in a different way, yeah, exactly. Way.
Yeah. So you've mentioned injuries quite a lot, David, because you've got a long running history and you've done a lot of long distances, so that kind of very few people can have those things and not have had some injuries. Have you had many that have meant you couldn't run for a little while?
Yes.
How long?
No, I'm only joking. The worst thing that's happened to me, well, I've had two bad things. Firstly, I got what they call athlete's heart. And the specialist said it's from doing 40 years of running ultra marathons. So
you think it'd be making your heart stronger?
Basically, your heart muscle becomes so large and so strong.
Wow.
And it was sort of completely ironic to me that could happen. I thought the stronger your heart was, the better you were. But no.
What were the symptoms of that? How does that?
So I got totally out of breath in a race in Derby. Do you remember the Tassie Trail Fest was down there a couple? And I did. I went in to do the I think it was the Mad Weekend, which involved about 5 races.
Yeah, it went over. That's true. Yeah.
Yeah, and I suddenly found myself desperate for breath on one part, and I thought there's something wrong. And going through the test, this is what came up. So that was pretty scary, and that slowed me up. So now I have to watch my heart rate. So that's a bit careful. And now, and then about 2 years ago, out running, I slipped and broke my leg.
So it wasn't like it was a running injury for sure, but not really a running injury.
No, that's right. And I'm just recovering from that. I've just had all the metal work taken out of the bones. And so now I'm just getting ready to go back on the trails again next week.
So how was that? How is it? Those periods where you have had to not go for a run, you couldn't put your shoes on and not go for a run for a period of time. How do you deal with that? What goes on in your mind?
Better. I'll go and get my wife. No, I'm only
Yeah, exactly.
she'll tell you how grumpy and difficult I can
After
be.
years and
If I'm
years of
not going
marriage.
for a run. Yeah. Yeah. It was very extremely difficult, and um, I I've got a library of about 120 running books. So when I'm not running, I've got those to read, and of course it gets me even more wound up at times that I'm desperate to get out. So no, I'll walk, I'll hike, and I'll go as fast as I can before things pull me up again. But yeah, I mean, we all runners go through a multiple of injuries, and what do they say? We're either injured, we're recovering from an injury, or we're getting one. I think that's sort of
there's a niggle. It's
yeah,
coming.
there's always something, and
Yep.
yeah, and in fact that's why I called my book The Unstoppable Runner, because I'm always just fighting back from something,
get back.
and nothing's going to stop me coming back. That's really what the title
Well, I
means.
guess we'll talk about the book in a minute. Do you think how long do you think you'll run for? And I don't know why I ask some people this, because it's kind of, we understand by the things that they say what their answer will be.
I mean, I'm walking now, and I usually I run for 5 minutes and walk for one. And Jeff Galloway, the famous American, he sort of promoted that as a health thing, and it works really well. And it means I can still go in ultras, as long as I'm not keeping volunteers out too long. Yeah. And I'll keep going till the volunteers start. So the tents, the aid stations have closed down and they've gone home to bed. I'll keep doing races, but I'll keep running.
Yeah, you'll just keep running. Did you ever come and do the Convicts and Wenches?
Yes, regularly. Yeah,
I was the race director there for the last few months.
Well, David Bailey, of course, who wins it regularly. He's a Flinders Islander.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah, he was born and bred here. His family all still live over here.
That's amazing.
He's a lawyer in Hobart now.
Yeah, I mean, I know him from the race.
He's a lovely young man. So yeah.
There you go. So I'm pretty sure that we've come across each other. I've done the 50 there and all of the other distances.
Well, that's a lovely run. But that stretch out to the far end along the beach. Yeah. It just seems to go on and on forever. I know. Yeah. I had a horrible injury there once. As you come back, the final bit of beach, you climb up some rocks and go up. West Head. That's it. Well, I got to those rocks and I put my left leg up onto the rock and cramp. Oh no. And it was I was like an upturned beetle. I was sort of writhing on the ground and I couldn't get up. It was terrible agony. So I was there all on my own. It was horrific. But yes, but lovely run.
But at least you'd had a nice view.
Yeah,
well, you could have sat on the rocks and just look.
My eyes were closed and the cursing was going on.
That's amazing. I at the start of the year I did a challenge with my coaches we were talking about earlier off the recording, and the challenge was to run 60 kilometers, and I chose to run from Port Sorell and then do the rest of the Convicts and Wenches. So I ran from Port Sorell around the road and then into Baker's Beach, and then basically it was just beautiful. It was just amazing.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Well, see, now I've sort of finished. I'm sort of getting slower. I'm spending more time planning personal events. Just adventures, and that's one I wanted to do, was to do the Greens Beach run again, just on my own. Just take a long time to do it. It's lovely.
Yeah, it is. It's just amazing. All right, so tell us a little bit about the book. You wrote a book. What on earth made you? I mean, there's one thing to go for a run. It's a whole other thing to write a book. So tell us about your book, how that happened.
I started writing for myself. I enjoy writing, and I enjoy thinking about running, and I was thinking, well, I'll just write the stories of my past adventures, and then my wife and I had the pleasure, I should say, of going to live on Deal Island for 3 months in the middle of the Bass Strait. We were managing a national park, and we were the only people there.
I'd love to do that. My husband and I say that all the time. Like those kind of there's lots of places in Tassie.
Yeah. So we did that for 3 months, and
awesome.
Every afternoon I'd sit and write, and then eventually this thing took shape. It sort of, it was bigger than me, really. It was,
That's awesome. So you shared. Tell us what's in the book. Why people what they'll get out of reading your book.
Oh, well, it's the stories of so many runs that I've been in, and where the running life has taken me, and the adventures that I've had, and the people I've met. And I've tried to reflect on those to motivate people to get off the couch and get out there and do their or have their own adventures, and just saying, well, look, if this old fart at 74, 75 can do it, so can so many others.
Totally.
There's as I say to people, you're stronger than you think you are, and you're better than you think you are. So just get out there and do it. But but the beauty, the other reason I wrote the book was to actually raise money for Cancer Council. And so far I've sent them more than $1,000 from profits. So so it's
that's awesome.
That's one of the reasons I'm proud of it, is that it's a good awesome fundraiser for Cancer Council.
So are you is there a reason that you are supporting the Cancer Council?
Yes, I've had bowel cancer, but that's a minor issue. My wife and I lost a daughter at 28 to a really vicious form of cancer.
So it's been quite
13 years ago, and ever since then we've been raising money for Cancer Council, or Cure Cancer, and it's been it's added an extra depth to my running, I think. So I ran with, because we were talking about a mutual friend, Scott Jones.
Yes.
Scott and I ran from Launceston to Hobart together. And we raised over $30,000.
I did see that on Facebook a while ago. What would we do without Facebook?
I'd really like to live without Facebook. Yes.
I know.
Mind you, I must say, it keeps me in connection with the running community. So
it's true. It has a double
edged sword.
Yeah. There's two sides to that coin, for sure.
Yeah.
It's quite amazing, really, what it can do. But at the same time, it does keep us quite connected. So
yes,
we can't be too unhappy about it, I guess. Well, we can, especially because I think it stops people getting up off the couch, or it stops and it does all these other things relating to people not just being themselves and not just being with themselves. Like, we don't have any downtime. It's probably another way, and it's not just Facebook. It's a modern life. There's not a lot of downtime with it.
There's some special people that I come across on Facebook. There's a young lady in Victoria called Kirsten Mapleston, who is a great Facebook person, but she does an awful lot of ultra runs and volunteers at a lot of races in Victoria, and to be in connection with people like that, I get motivated by them, and that's great. It's great for me, I think.
In another part of my life, I was an online marketer as well, so I've actually had a bit more to do with Facebook than.
I might need to talk to you again another time about how to promote my book.
So it's an interesting relationship I have with Facebook. So yes, which is a question I did want to ask. If people are interested in purchasing your book, where and how do they do that, David?
Well, all the bookshops in Tasmania will have copies. It's available on Amazon. Booktopia, and the book, I was going to say suppository, I mean depository.
Depository.
Yeah.
Which one gives you the most profit?
Um,
Which one of the online ones? If I was to put a link to one of them.
they're all the same. All
Okay.
the profits that I'll just get royalties.
Okay.
But I have bought a whole load of books from the publisher.
Mm-hmm.
That I can sell directly. So if anybody wants to contact me, my email address is flinders.runner@hotmail.com.
Excellent.
And
I'll also put that in there.
I can be delighted to send you a signed copy. Yeah.
And I assume you get more profit from that ultimately that way.
Yeah.
That's what I was trying to think, because then there's more, more money goes to cancer and stuff as well. So
yes, that very much so. So thank you for raising that.
That is a pleasure. We've had a cancer story. We've had a couple. My mum's had cancer, just breast, not just, but she's had breast cancer in the last couple of years, and my husband's had quite an aggressive cancer in the last year as well. But he's in remission at the moment. So, and it's all looking good. But they'd have to stay, checking it.
That's right. Well, it's continual. I mean, my wife also is just getting over breast cancer, so it's it sort of struck our family pretty hard. But you beat it and move on.
That's right. And have you found that your running has helped you deal with some of those? Because what do we say? Life doesn't come with instructions, and unfortunately we don't come here with instructions, and we just have to we don't get to our ages. You're only a little bit older than me, really.
A lot older, I would say. Yeah.
You're about the same age as my dad. But I'm still in my 50s. I've got grandchildren and stuff. So
good on you.
You don't get to this age, or 50 and above, and not have scars and things happen. Things usually don't just stay rosy your entire life. I'd never heard of anyone who's been able to say that. So things like running, I've found, for me personally, have been really cathartic, in that I could go out and it's just space to deal with whatever's going on, or not to deal with it at all, to get a break from it and just be in the space, especially, as you said, when you're going to trails and things like that, because you're surrounded by nature.
I think you said it very well, because that was exactly how it was with me at the times when family have had the cancer issues, and a young person dying in the family is a awfully stressful thing for everybody, and we all supported each other. But like you were saying, you do need time to get out on your own, and to cope with it yourself. That was when we were on Flinders Island, and I was able to get down my little trail, and with the dog. The dog was wonderful. The dog understood everything I was going through.
Animals are amazing.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So I guess, that one of the messages that David and I would like to share with you all, I think, is that running can be really cathartic when you're trying to deal with the stuff that life throws at us all. So, if you haven't been for a run, give it a go if you're trying to deal with something. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So back to the bare bones of running.
Yes, of course.
How do you get out on those days when it's just, you don't want to? Like, not every day feels like a day you want to go for a run, but maybe you haven't been for a few days and you should, because it'll be harder if you wait. This is what goes on in my head. It'll be harder if I don't go even. Yeah. How do you get out on those days when you know you should, but you don't want to?
First of all, I run first thing in the morning.
Good idea.
So after a cup of coffee, I know that my running gear is all set out. It's all set out waiting, and I get out of bed, put my running gear on before my mind can start thinking about other things. I go, and because I know that if I ran later in the day, other things would crop up. There'd be an excuse or a reason not to. But first thing, I get it done. And Sundays, like everybody else, I do my long run, and sometimes that can take me through to lunchtime. And these days, at my age, I now come home and I'll have a have a shower and a nap.
And a nap. I knew you
Yeah.
were going to say that.
Which I never
I love
thought I'd
it.
do, but there you go.
I think that I might have been known to have a nap
Yes.
after a long run.
Yeah, it's really good.
It's very restorative.
Yeah, I can recommend it to those who haven't tried it.
How do you think your life has been improved because running is in your life?
Well, it's a difficult thing to explain. It actually has changed my life so completely because I was in the corporate world. I was in the finance world where greed was king, and I realised that running was so important to who I am or who I was that I would put my focus on my running, and I did the job as best as I could, but I wasn't going to get hooked into the greed thing, and I didn't really seek to become a CEO of anything. I just wanted to be me, and I knew that me was a runner. As I said earlier on, I am a runner, even though I'm not a great runner or even a mediocre runner. I just love what it does for my mind, and I love what it does for my body in terms of health-wise. So I just, it really changed my life, and I'm so pleased I found it.
It sounds a little like, without putting words into your mouth or being judgmental of the people who had different motivations, but it feels like you feel like you became a better person.
Yes, yeah, and it does help me cope with unpleasant things and unpleasant people. Yeah, I can just go for a run and get it out of my head.
Unpleasant people? Who are they?
I can't remember ever meeting anybody. I'm sure there's some out there.
That's because running gives us amnesia.
Yes.
The unpleasant people. Yeah. We forget them. It's like, oh, they're gone.
It does turn your mind to mush on a long run.
Oh, yes. Try and do maths. No, it's not happening.
No, you can't do maths.
No. Certainly can't work out what your rate is per kilometre.
No, impossible.
That. I can't anyway. Can you describe to me a run where you just felt like everything was perfect, how that felt? It doesn't have to be a race. It doesn't even have, it could just be, a short training run that you did through the bush, or it could be something, it doesn't really matter, like what that made you feel, what was around you at the time. That runner's high, I guess we call it.
Well, I don't know whether I've ever had runner's high, but I've had that incredible feeling of floating. I've got, my pace is just right, and I feel like I can just keep that pace going forever. There's no one around. And the weather. I like the heat. I like to feel.
You like the heat, and you live in Tasmania.
I know. That's why I go off and run on the Simpson Desert and things like that. And I went to Cambodia and I ran there. And
wow! I've been to Cambodia. I can't imagine running there. I ended up in the hospital in Cambodia.
Did you?
Yes.
I probably should have. But
wow, you ran in Cambodia. That's amazing.
Yeah.
That would have been incredible.
Yeah. So those, but yes, I think the runs where everything feels just comes together. Your breathing, your pace. You've got lots of water, and you're sweating profusely, and it's just love it. Love it.
When we took our three of our younger children away for a year and a half, and we traveled through Asia and Europe and those kind of places. But I remember running in Bangkok and having to leave the apartment quite early because it was so warm.
Humid.
So getting used to that. That running and that sweaty kind of running. It's a different thing altogether than running here.
It is. But that's again, that's great, and it's an international thing. You can go anywhere in the world and you'll meet lovely people out running.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Does your wife run?
No, she can't at the moment. She did for
Yeah.
a number of years, but doesn't at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
But some of the, I mean, I've gone for casual runs in India, places like that, and had great experiences with the local people. In Egypt, there was a group of young kids wanted to come for a run with me, and there was no language. The language was we were just couldn't understand each other, but we were laughing and having a great time. So
it was like moving.
It's an international language.
Yeah, it is. It's amazing. Actually, I have a funny little story. We went to a friend's wedding in the Philippines a few years ago, and I went for a run. And that's not a place where they actually go. Like, we were out of the city, and they were like laughing. People, the adults were like, "What are you doing?" Sure, I'm sure the kids would have come and run, but all the locals are like, really, why are you running? What are you running from? It was quite funny.
What are you running from?
Yeah, exactly. It was. So some of the cultures, I think, there's quite a bit of running. The kids do a lot of running, but maybe the adults don't always do a lot of running, which is in some parts of their life.
Yeah. Well, they'd often stop a car and say, "Do you want to, do you want a lift?
Lift?
You're obviously running late for something.
You missed the bus."
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. All right. So, David, it has been amazing to have this conversation with you, and I knew it was going to be amazing, and it has been. Is there anything about running that we haven't covered? Do you think we should, before we wrap up?
No. I think we perhaps didn't explore the sort of mental side as far as we could have, but I know from having listened to some of your earlier podcasts that that's covered extremely well.
You might have some other opinions, though. Some other views.
I was pleasantly surprised. There was we've talked about your coach,
Marlies Court.
And you sort of said we're going to talk about motherhood, and I thought, oh, this isn't for me. I'm on the treadmill recovering from my broken leg, and I thought, well, I'll listen to that. And it really engrossed me, the conversation about the mental side of running. And
that was for anybody wanting to listen to that was a bonus episode that you can find. Go back and have a look for it. But yes, I'm glad you enjoyed that. It was actually Marlies who really wanted to talk about that, because she's found that in her program, especially women, that's why, and I guess both of us were mums. People don't take enough time for ourselves, and as we talked about before, that time where we disconnect from our busy lives and all of the hats and the roles that we all play on a daily basis, and the importance of being in touch with just who you are as an individual. And we find that running is a way that's how we do that, and I think that's probably how you do that, and most runners.
Do. And you do feel selfish sometimes. You feel a bit guilty, but to hell with that.
That's just a feeling, you don't have to do anything with it.
No, that's true. Let it go.
Yeah, like it's just a feeling. Like we are. Like I'm training to be a mindfulness coach, and that's a big part of that kind of thing. It's like, well, feelings are just they're just thoughts that we've our thoughts created a feeling, and we don't have to do anything about it. It's just there.
Yeah. Well, that's good. I'm glad you said that. That's
a bit like the pain we have from running.
Yes. What pain?
Exactly. It's just a bit of it's just a bit of pain. Doesn't mean you have to stop. It doesn't mean, and that comes down to the discussions around people being too comfortable in our modern life, and realizing that a little bit of uncomfort is actually really good for us and healthy for us, and we don't have to be frightened of it, and it'll make us better people and healthier people in the long run.
Yeah. Oh well. I'm glad you said all that. That's good.
I'm supposed to be drawing all that out of you, but instead I'm just telling you. So I'm sorry about that.
No, you say it so much better than me. Yes.
I get a lot of practice, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm working on it. I'm still a work in progress for sure, actually. All right. So apart from the mental side of it, is there anything else about running that you wanted to share that from your perspective?
No, only perhaps the beauty I've found in as I've got older, and of course you get slower, and you're always getting over something. As my age or thereabouts, is that you can still get out there and do things,
still get moving,
and have adventures and you shouldn't be ashamed of walking a little bit in between running, and don't feel guilty. Just do it.
To me, it's a relief, actually. Like when I was in my 20s and I got just under a 20-minute 5 once, and I was getting faster, but then all this pressure, it just felt, there's this pressure to keep your training up, and the next time you went for a race, you knew that there'd be, expectation, perhaps not just yours, but other people's. And, then my fastest marathon's only like 3:36 or something. In my 40s, but then it was like, oh, I wonder if I can go faster. And then I started putting more training. And then, you were talking about how you got sick and that I could feel all that happening. But now I'm getting older, I'm a grandmother, I'm in my 50s. I'm like, it doesn't matter now. And so to me, this side of my running, or this end of my running, it's a relief. It's like, it doesn't matter how fast I run. I just go out because I love it.
Good. And that's how I am, and I think that's how most of us are. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
So if anyone's listening to this and they're starting and they're not 20-something young guns, that's how you can help. You don't have to go fast. Fast has nothing to do with running, I don't think. Ultimately, not that's the running we're talking about anyway. We're not talking.
And don't be ashamed to put in a walk, especially as you're starting off.
Totally. Yeah. I think even Amy Lamprey.
Oh yes, Amy. Yes.
So Amy's been on the podcast, and that was one of the things she said earlier on was walking is also part of your running, basically.
Yeah. Mind you, when she runs from coast to the top of Mount Kosciuszko, I'm sure she put in the odd walk or two.
I think she did. Yes, yes, because that was
an amazing runner.
Many hours. Yeah, she is an amazing runner. I think everybody was quite excited to hear her say that. Who hasn't been coached by her, that it's okay to have a walk. And in fact, my coach is that my training regime and my racing now for any ultras is every 3K I'm supposed to walk for a minute. So
lovely.
I have walking in mind as well.
It's the time to have a drink, eat.
It's a bit of recovery.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, David. Now, I wanted to ask you, do you have any tips for a beginner runner? So somebody who comes along and says, I would really love to start running, and the tips that we give them, we want to make sure that they stay running, that they become, it becomes a part of their life. So what tips would you give to someone who wanted to?
Apart from starting, from not pushing yourself too much too early, I'd always recommend joining someone like the buddies in Launceston, the Launceston Running Buddies, or a group that isn't an intense group, that have a social side, and do encourage beginners like the buddies do. So I think, and the support that a beginner will get will probably see them go for many years.
They say sometimes it's the idea that you want to run that gets you there in the first place, but it's the community that keeps you going and keeps you there.
I totally agree with that. Totally agree with that.
Well, David, I have taken up so much of your time, and it has been amazing. You have been very inspirational, and I'm sure that everyone will go and pick up your book. I'm going to put that email address in your post on the website as well, so that we can get more people buying your book. I do want to say a big thank you for the time you've given us. I really appreciate it.
Oh, that bit's been a pleasure, but I must say I really appreciate your helping promote the book by doing that, because that creates more profits to go to Cancer Council. So thank you.
It's a pleasure.
And I'll catch up with you down the road.
We definitely will. Now stay on, because I'll say a quick goodbye off as well. But I just say goodbye on the recording, and then I'll say one off. Say bye.
Bye. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Fit Mind, Fit Body podcast. I'd love to talk to you about your running journey. So send me a message on Facebook or on the website, and let's do it. For a bunch of resources on mindful running that will help you get and stay mentally and physically fit, head over to the website fitmindfitbody.co, and I'll see you there. Plus, I'll be back here in your podcast player a few times a week. Hit subscribe now so that you don't miss an episode. And before you go, I'd really appreciate it if you'd leave a review. It'll help more people to find the podcast and get inspired to start running. I'll see you soon. Bye.